You ever seen someone weaponize rules so hard they nearly cost a life just to feel powerful? Yeah, that happened. And let me tell you, I was right in the thick of it, holding my wife's hand in a Florida ER as her fever spiked, watching the neighborhood queen bee, Meredith, arms folded, pearls practically strangling her throat, stand there and insist my pregnant wife wasn't authorized to be in that bed. I mean, really? Silverleaf Estates, land of manicured lawns and fake smiles, doesn't tolerate misuse of emergency facilities. My wife Leah was so pale, lips dry, sweat soaking her blouse, barely conscious, and still, the nurse hesitated, checking Meredith's smug face like she was the hospital's head surgeon that I didn't have to yell. The sound of Leah's monitor hitting 102 degrees did the talking for me. I'm her husband. I designed this trauma wings failover. That bed pinged off my login. I made sure everyone heard, especially Meredith, who tossed out some line about designers don't get privileges, like my work was a toy, like our home setup was clutter. She'd already fined us $3,000 for having a fetal monitor in the house. Medical clutter, she called it, hand-delivered the ticket while my wife was vomiting in the driveway. That's the kind of petty we're dealing with here. And you know, if you've ever had to stand up to bullies, you know that heat. Right behind your eyes, hands shaking, but you hold your ground anyway. That night, after Leah collapsed at home, I rushed her to the ER. Meredith followed, flashing her compliance officer title, blocking the discharge, just because she could. I carried Leah out myself, past nurses who looked like they'd rather cry than cross her. I still remember the air outside, thick as soup, and the porch swing at home. My dad built that swing, you know, never got to meet his grandchild. It's the only thing of him that's left, and wouldn't you know, the HOA marked it for removal too. Non-standard structure. That's how they talk when they want to erase something that matters. So, yeah, I didn't sleep. I sat by Leia's side, scrolling the HOA portal, combing through violation records. My day job's compliance simulation software, so their firewall was nothing. What I found: over 8 months, 17 violations for medical disruption. All to families with someone vulnerable, pregnant, elderly, disabled. Not one to a single, healthy resident. None on Meredith Street. This wasn't about safety. This was targeting. Control. I sent everything to a patient advocacy group. Just the facts. The rep on the phone went dead silent. Said they'd heard rumors, but nothing this focused. Meanwhile, Meredith was back to her roses, acting like she'd already won, while her secretary, Jerome, used to be an EMT, hands always tapping some silent rhythm, just looked torn, stuck. He was more than a stooge, I'd come to realize. I saw something human in his eyes, the kind that knows better but can't quite act yet. Next HOA meeting, Meredith stands up at the podium, parading blurry photos of violations. There's our fetal monitor, tagged and shamed. Jerome's next to her, hands white-knuckled. When she called me out, I didn't flinch. Did the board vote to follow my wife to the ER? Or was that just you? Gasps all around. Meredith, still smooth as glass, claims that incident is outside HOA jurisdiction, but I could see Jerome flinch. He knew. After the meeting, as I left, Jerome dropped his pen, totally staged. I handed it back. Our eyes met. He had a folded note, marked with one word: septic. I knew then he was reaching out, in the only way he dared. 3 days later, the hammer dropped. Certified letter, HOA seal, accusing us of endangering the community because Leah had attended a barbecue, weeks before she'd even gotten sick. Now they were coming for the house, the swing, the history, everything. Let me back up a sec. Silverleaf sits on a federal health corridor. Literally, our house is the endpoint for a first responder triage route, written into the neighborhood's DNA. Meredith's violations? Not just cruel, but illegal. If she blocked access, the county could freeze grants, call for an audit, pull the plug on everything. Suddenly, I'm back in engineer mode, collecting schematics, timestamps, logs, access pings. I put together a case that even a room full of HOA hardliners couldn't ignore. Sent it all, anonymously for now, to a local watchdog page. Sunrise Neighborhood Justice. Jerome's twist came in the middle of the night. Yellow ribbon, for words, she's gone too far. No signature needed. I doubled down, mapping every property, zoning line, utility stub, digging until sunrise. The HOA had made a habit of weaponizing rules, denying access, removing gates, disabling mailboxes for hospice patients, all under the guise of aesthetic standards. I wasn't having it, but the next blow didn't come from Meredith. It came from Jerome, quietly slipping me a manila envelope, emergency board meeting minutes, internal emails, one damning quote. Eviction is cleaner than leniency. He handed me a USB. Security cam footage, internal chats, draft rules about banning visible medical devices, even in emergencies. She told me to shred it. I didn't. He knew the risk. I just want to sleep again, he said. Time to fight back, publicly. I built a website, simple, silverleaftruth.org. Top of the page, Meredith, on camera, declaring pregnancy is not a protected exemption under HOA policy. Below, the report. I scheduled an email blast for the morning of the emergency vote. Time to drop as the meeting started. By now, the zoning inspector and a civil liberties attorney were on standby. All I needed was for residents to see the truth for themselves. The meeting was straight out of a movie. Meredith at the front, her backup singers, sorry, bored, behind her, poised, rehearsed. But this time, I brought my own projector. As she reached clause 14.3, her attempt at a medical dictatorship, I played the clip, her voice, her words. The air in the room changed. Jerome stood up. Everything you just heard is accurate. For the first time, Meredith cracked. Residents, suddenly emboldened, called for a re-vote, demanded an investigation. And then Leah walked in, fragile but proud. I was the one in that ER bed. You forced them to move me with a 103-degree fever. Her voice shook, but she spoke her truth. The zoning inspector, who'd been silent, stood and issued a formal suspension of the HOA's enforcement authority, pending investigation. The room erupted. Revote the board, chanted from the back. Meredith tried to retreat, but found her own allies in the way. By the end, Meredith was done. Stripped of her title, the sign came down the next morning. No ceremony, just a couple of maintenance guys with socket wrenches and a few curious neighbors watching. Jerome resigned, but not before signing a statement for the audit. The board suspended all enforcement actions, and the porch swing? Still there, still creaking in the wind, right where it belonged. A week later, residents asked me to review a new charter, one built on transparency, care, and real community. Someone left a plaque on the swing. Here, we made them listen. I hung it by the chain, let it rock in the breeze. Maybe not everyone will get it. Maybe some will keep quiet, not wanting to rock the boat. But sometimes, you need to capsize it, you know what I mean? Look, this wasn't about rules. It was about dignity, about standing up when silence becomes policy, about making sure no one else gets erased by a petty dictator with a gavel and a grudge. We took our street back with the truth. So, where do you stand on this? Drop your story in the comments. Tell me what justice looks like where you live, and if you're tired of HOA bullies, hit subscribe, because this fight, it's only just begun.